Today's lesson is on, we're going to be talking about shortcuts for powers again, but today we're going to be talking about negative exponents. And we've kind of, what I've done is broken this up into two smaller days so that we're not so overwhelmed with the negative exponent property, because there are two different parts to it, and we want to make sure that you get a really good understanding of both of them. So today we're going to talk about the first part of the negative exponent property. So first I'm going to ask you to consider the pattern of the power of 2 below. So we're going to use our calculator to help us answer. We can just punch them in as we go. But what we get is we get 2 to the 4th, I believe that is 16. 2 to the 3rd is 8. 2 to the 2nd is 4. 2 to the 1st is 2. And 2 to the 0 is 1. Coming over to the other side here, 2 to the negative 1, if we punch that in, we get 0.5. 2 to the negative 2 is 0.25. 2 to the negative 3 I get as 0.125. And 2 to the negative 4 I get as 0.0625. So now I'm looking at this and I'm saying big deal. Okay, but now what I would like to do is I would like to decide, okay, is there a way to write my second column here using fractions? So is there a way to write 0.5 using fractions? Well, sure there is. I can write 0.5 as 1/2. I can write 0.25 as 1/4. 0.125 you might not know right off the top of your head, but that it does come out to be 1/8. And 0.0625, you can believe me or you can check it on your calculator, comes out to be 1/16. So now what we end up seeing here is that there are some similarities between what I have written in blue on the right side and what I have written in red on the far right side in that first column. You can see that the denominator of each of my blue fractions is actually found on the right side here. And so what we're going to hope to do is make a connection. So I could write the right-hand column as fractions also. So I could write 16 as a fraction. That would be 16/1. I could write 8 as a fraction. That would just be 8/1. 4 as a fraction is 4/1. And so on. Okay? But now this isn't helping me. It's sort of helping me see a pattern, but I'm not really, I'm supposed to see a pattern with powers, and I'm not. So let's see. Maybe there's a way that I could write 1/2 using powers. Well, I could write that as, remember, I want it to have a power of 2, so I'm going to have 1/2 to the first power. 2 to the first power gives me a 2 in the denominator there. I could write 1/4. I could write that as 1/2 to the second power, because 2 to the second power gives me a 4, and that would be the denominator again. 1/8, that would be, I could write that as 1/2 to the third power. And 1/16, I could write that as 1/2 to the fourth power. So what you might notice, and I'm going to switch to the next slide and write down the exact same thing. What you might notice here is that it looks like whatever I started with, so here I started with 2 to the negative 1. If I made that a fraction, it looks like the 2 went to the denominator. So it looks like the 2 moved to the bottom of the fraction. The other thing that I might notice is that the exponent, the exponent looks like it became negative, or it was negative, now it is positive. So hopefully those are the two things that you notice, that that 2, it moved to the bottom of the fraction now, and the exponent, it became positive when I moved it there. So that is our pattern that occurs when we have negative exponents. So here's our negative exponent property. It says for all n, if I have b to the negative n, that is equal to 1/b to the n. So I can basically move him to the bottom of a fraction, and then make the exponent positive so that he's happy. Now, we do have to say here that this is only true when b equals, it does not equal 0. And that's important because if b were to be 0, I would have a 0 in the denominator here. And I remember that I cannot divide by 0 ever. That's not legal to do. So that would be a good thing to put down on your green notes. That would also be a good thing to get down in your class notes for the day. Now, how do I remember this? This is how I remember it. I remember it this way. If we have a negative exponent, it's not happy where it is. So instead of keeping it unhappy, we move it to where he likes it better. So if he's in the upstairs of a fraction, I'm going to move him, and he has a negative exponent, I'm going to move him to the basement of that fraction. If he's in the bottom of the fraction, then I'm going to move him to the top of the fraction and make him happy. Okay, so here's two examples. I think that this is a really great thing to write down. It's a really great example. So if I have a to the negative 2, you can see right now he's in the top of the fraction. He is unhappy, though. He has a negative exponent. So to make him happy, he doesn't want to be upstairs. He really wants to be downstairs. Okay? Now, what's left upstairs? Well, the only thing that I can multiply by a without changing it is a 1. The same thing holds true if I look at an example where the exponent is negative and it's in the basement. So here's another example. Okay, 1 over b to the negative 5. Right now he's in the basement. He's very unhappy down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to move him to the top. Now he's happy. And what was in the basement left? A 1. Okay, so this whole screen is a really, really good thing to have everything written down. I think that it sums it up very nicely what it is that we want to do and why. We don't want negative exponents. They're not nice to work with at all. Okay. So once you have that done, we do have some practice. We have problems 1 through 12. And I'm going to ask you to go ahead and pause the video, try them on your own, and then hit play when you're ready to check them so that you can check them, see if you got them right, if you're on the right idea or not. So I'll let you do that right now. Okay, so I think we're ready to go through these. On number 1, you can see that the B is very unhappy where he is. He is currently upstairs. He would much rather be downstairs, so we write 1 over b to the 4th. Same thing happens on number 2. The D is very unhappy where he is. He is upstairs right now, so I move him downstairs to get 1 over d to the 8th. Now in number 3, we have to start thinking a little bit more. Okay, who is the person that really is unhappy here? It's the C. The C has the negative exponent. So the only person that's going to move to the bottom is the C. The D, he's going to stay right where he is. So D to the 2nd over C to the 8th. Same thing happens on number 4. The only guy that's unhappy there is the B. So the B is the guy that's moving to the bottom. The A stays on top. Next one, again, if we're looking at just who's negative, who is unhappy, the only person that has a negative exponent there, the only thing that's up there with a negative exponent is the J. The 12 does not have a negative exponent on it, and that is something that a lot of people mistake. So the 12, he does not have an exponent on him. He is a 1, an exponent of 1 if you want to think about it that way, but he's going to stay up on top. He is okay. He's happy. The J, he's the guy that's not happy right now. And finally, number 6, okay, the guys that are unhappy is the Z. Okay, he is not happy. He has the negative exponent. Now, many people are going to try and say that the negative 8, he's unhappy also. But a negative number doesn't get to move places. Only things that have negative exponents. And if you look at that negative 8, he does not have a negative exponent. So he has to stay upstairs along with the W to the 4. On number 7, They're both unhappy. They're both going to move downstairs. And we leave a 1 on top. On number 8, again, who's unhappy? The W is unhappy. The X is unhappy. Those are the guys that are moving downstairs. The 5 is okay where he is. The Y to the 3rd is okay where he is. Number 9, who's unhappy? The 7 and the 2. Those guys are unhappy. So we're going to have 7 to the 6th power times 2 to the 5th power on the bottom, 8 to the 4th on top. Number 10, who's unhappy? 4 with the negative X. Okay, he's unhappy. So we get 5 to the Y over 4 to the X. Number 11. I really like number 11 because this gives us 2 different options to do this problem. I could simply say, well, I know that I should add those up. So A plus negative A is n to the 0, which I know is 1. That's one way to think about it. We could also get rid of our negative exponent and write it as n to the a over n to the a, which then we could subtract a minus a to get n to the 0, which is 1. So there's more than one way to do that one. Number 12, we could do the same thing. Okay, we could subtract first, and then we could add these two together first, and then decide if we have any negatives, or we can deal with it right away. I'm going to deal with it right away. 9 to the 8, he's happy, he stays upstairs. 9 to the negative 5, he's unhappy, so he's moving downstairs. Now I can see, okay, I can do 8 minus 5, that would give me 9 to the 3rd power. So there's more than one way to do some of these. That's what you're going to find. Now, I know that the next thing that should be in your packet would be an activity that would look like this. I would like to direct your attention to a problem like number 7. I'm going to highly encourage you to, as you start going through these problems, to worry about your negative exponents at the very end. Okay, so do all those other properties that we learned first, and then deal with your negative exponents. Because what you'll find is that maybe you don't need to flip anything. Okay, so if we look at number 7 here, I can see that I have y to the 6th times negative 4. So that would give me y to the negative 24 if I multiplied first. Well, I know that he's not happy right now, so I'm going to move him to the basement. And now that's been a very easy problem for me to do. But you can see on problem like number 11 here, those people that didn't multiply first may have messed that one up. Okay, or even a problem like number 11 here. If you look at number 11, that says y to the negative 4 to the negative 2. Well, I'm going to multiply those exponents, so I'm going to get y to the 8. Oh, wait a minute. He's not negative. I don't have to do anything to him. So that makes my life much easier if I think about it multiplying, dealing with all those other issues first, and then worrying about who's unhappy where they are at the very end. Okay, so I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and complete this activity. I will tell you that the problems at the bottom, 13 through 18, are a little challenging, but I think that you can handle them. When you're finished, feel free to check your answers and then start the homework.